Welcome, our fellow lovers of love, and thank you for joining us on yet another excursion through the stream of consciousness, down the river of tranquility, to fill the lake of life with love.
All right, good evening and welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us on this excursion through a journey of love. And you know, it's kind of on the tip of the tongue these days is the relationship between Jada Pinkett and Will Smith. We're going to use those terms because that seems to be a relationship on the rocks. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about them specifically. We have linked if you go to the website, latenightLove.us, there's a link to the video in the website. And it's a very disturbing, personally. I find it very difficult to watch it, so I'm not going to play it here. Because literally, he asks her not to go live, and she does it anyway.
He explains himself several times, and she just completely ignores him.
I mean, and it's clearly a man. Now, I'm going to admit, I was one of those people who think this is all a bit too Hollywood, considering. But even if we assume that this whole thing was a bit Hollywood, it didn't go over the way they thought it would, and it's all kind of gone off the rails. And you're looking at a broken person. But I think what we're watching, probably more likely, is a broken relationship. You know, it looks more like something that happens in real life now more than something that happens in, kind of a movie script. I mean, they can actually, movies mimic real life, right? That's kind of the whole point of being movies. And it kind of played out like a movie script. But, sometimes relationships play out like a movie script, and if you're watching a relationship break down in front of your eyes, sometimes people react out of fear, anger, frustration, whatever it is. They're not themselves. You don't react. You're not interpreting the world the way you normally would, and so you end up reacting in a way. Will Smith's a comedian, a rapper. He jokes about people all the time, and yet he couldn't take a mild joke about his wife. He went off the handle. But, if your marriage is falling apart, if you see a relationship falling apart, and that kind of a joke is a much bigger thing than it otherwise would be. Strong marriage, those kind of jokes they don't disturb a strong marriage. There's no ripple in a strong marriage from a joke at an award ceremony, where joking about the audience and their high-powered money problems, because let's face it, some issues with hair loss when you're a celebrity is not the same thing as when you're with everybody else. She looked good bald. On a pure superficial level, there was nothing wrong with her being bald. She looked good. She was rocking a blonde hairstyle. Some people can wear it. She can. She's not like one of those cancer patients who lost her hair because she's on cancer, right? It's just a condition that comes and goes where you lose your hair. It's not some serious underlying health issue. And so if you can't take a joke if I can joke about being blind for 6 months, you think someone could take a joke about losing your hair at an Oscar ceremony? You just could. And it was a mild joke. Looking forward to seeing you in the next G.I. Jane movie. Right? Because, G.I. Jane shaved her head to go to the military. That's all it was. It's hardly it wasn't a good joke, but it's hardly an offensive joke. I mean, it's a terrible joke. It's not funny. And, that's his biggest offense, is just not being funny. Jokes are supposed to be funny. It's just not funny. It's not actually offensive, but you're watching the disintegration of a relationship, and you've got to wonder, how toxic has it been? For how long? Has it always been toxic? Because that's a toxic relationship. She was more concerned about the public perception of her relationship than she was about her actual relationship. You and I never would have turned the cameras on to each other in that situation. Never would have happened.
No. If I did, you asked me to stop, I would say, my bad, I'm sorry, and I'll turn it off right now.
Yeah, you don't even say it. You turn it off before you even say that. You're hitting me off. Oh shit! I'm sorry. Fuck. Where's the delete? Hold on. That's what we're doing. That's what a healthy relationship does. Oh shit! I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were in this bad of a spot. I thought you were prepared to do this. My bad. Fuck. Then you've got to go on a big apology tour and deal with it because you completely misread a situation. But she was more concerned about her public perception of her marriage than she was about the actual state of her marriage, and even more importantly, about the emotional state of her husband.
He did not look good. Will Smith did not look good in that video.
No. Well, and he probably shouldn't, right? Maybe rightfully so, He's going through he's being punished, right, by himself. There's no bigger punishment than what you can do to yourself, right? So he's punishing himself. And that's probably appropriate. But your spouse is supposed to be there to help you through it, not pile on. And that's what I'm seeing. She's not just piling on, she's piling on so she looks good. And in this situation, I'm the one who's standing out in the front taking arrows. I'm not trying to deflect arrows from me. I'm taking them for my spouse so they can recover properly, right? That's my job as a spouse at that moment, is to protect your spouse when they're in a vulnerable position. That's your literal job. That's what you sign up for. And she's not doing that. I mean, as misguided as Will Smith may have been, at least in his disturbed mind, the way he's interpreting the world, he was at least trying to stand up for his spouse and his marriage. She's not. She's standing up for herself. Maybe she's always been toxic. Maybe the marriage is completely falling apart and she's in as bad as emotional state as he is. And, it's just time for them to go their separate ways, because at this stage, maybe it's irreconcilable. But that's not how a healthy marriage operates. Put all the other stuff aside, entanglements and whatever. Healthy marriages can have those type of relationships, open relationships. They can deal with that. But you can't deal with that emotional abandonment. And that's what that was. That was just pure emotional abandonment. And it's sad to see it, but it's also instructive, for the rest of us. Hey, are you behaving like that? You've got a problem. Are you in a relationship that kind of mirrors like that? Then you've got problems to deal with. Right? There's so it is instructive. And we don't want to pile on. Lord knows they need it. Of course, they're not paying attention to us, so us talking about it is about, no one's listening to us on that kind of thing. But still, it's not something that no one wants to go through that. And you're a public couple, and then you go more public as your marriages disintegrate. There's nothing in here that's making any sense. And when things don't make sense, it means people are misinterpreting the world. And, emotional stress, disintegrating marriages can cause you to misinterpret the world, All right, so there were some interesting things about this. And it kind of misses into the show where we kind of decide, okay, let's talk about, the various stages of relationships. And so I caught this article in the Daily Mail, and they were talking to a professional mistress. I'm not entirely sure how you're a professional mistress.
Don't they call that a prostitute?
The lady of the evening, an escort, long-term escort, but yeah, a professional mistress just means you get paid to have a relationship with somebody. Knock yourselves out. I'm not hey,
it's your business.
It's
mine.
It's everybody else's business. But a professional mistress who only sleeps with married men, maybe you probably shouldn't be taking relationship advice from professional mistresses, because she doesn't have long-term relationships. She's only seen one aspect of a relationship. She's seen the sexual side of a relationship.
Yes, she is.
And so for her perspective is, you need to be you know, more sexual or more sexually open. And maybe you do.
Even to the point of accepting a boob job.
But no.
Be more adventurous, she says.
Well, there's a difference between being more adventurous and then becoming something you're not. But I still go to the most often when you have someone who has a habitual relationship type of this. You got two types of people. You got people who are just going to do it anyway because they are that way, right? They're just, for whatever reason, they can't have they're not monogamous people, and they're, it's just going to be, right? You can go back to Jada Smith. She's not a monogamous person. It's just the way it is, and if you love them, you have to accept it and build your relationship around that, right? Or you don't have a relationship with that person. That's your two choices. And the other type of person is someone who feels emotionally abandoned and they're out looking for some kind of connection. And, a cheap physical connection, as pathetic as it is, it's something. And for some reason, they've lost connections to their spouses. And it's not saying it's acceptable, because you should go work on your connection with your spouse, right? But we're all broken human beings. And if we can take a step back from 35,000 feet and reserve our personal judgment and say, okay, how did we get here? From a psychological perspective rather than individual perspective, right? Because we're not judging any person in a relationship here. It's not our place, even though we just did. But, it's not our place to judge the internal workings of a relationship, but what it is our place to do is try to help people become better, have better relationships, become better themselves, and, sometimes that's accepting the flaws of your past so you can move forward. And so, but quite frankly, if you're taking relationship advice from a professional mistress, you're probably doing it wrong. And, so
Well, it was an interesting read. I read the article. She had some good ideas for spicing things up. I gotta grant her that. She's very creative.
Yeah, but it's her relationship idea is out of balance.
Oh yeah, she's just, it's all pure sex. That's all there is. That's not a relationship.
No, it's not even half of a relationship. It's just kind of a portion. But I can understand that maybe if you know how it gets, as in a marriage, you've got 2 kids, and sex becomes a chore rather than a release or a connection. Everybody's tired. And and you kind of lose connection with each other. The feeling is understandable. The emotion, the feeling is actually quite understandable. It's quite human.
Yes, it is.
But how you deal with those feelings, how you manifest that, and how you move through it is, actually the question. And we don't want to be too judgmental, because we all, lots of us have trouble, in our 20s and 30s before we kind of really figure out how to get through life responsibly. It's just the way it is. It's not even necessary. I wouldn't even necessarily call it immaturity. It's just inexperience.
Yes.
You don't know how to deal with these difficult relationship problems because you haven't had to deal with them before. And then if you deal with it improperly the first couple times, now you've set a pattern. And, and then you got a pattern that you set for life, and you have to go change your patterns at 40, and it's hard. But, life is hard. But that's my suggestion. Don't take relationship advice from a professional mistress. That's what we have counselors and therapists for. I'm just saying, we have marriage counselors for a reason.
Well, it's worth the read. She has some ideas.
Yeah, and it's not saying, maybe the general essence is don't ignore your sexual relationship, especially when you're younger.
That's the message, yeah.
If that's what it is, because you can lose that emotional connection. And they might still love you, but if you've lost an emotional connection, then you've lost something. All right. And so the next part of it is actually kind of, it tails off of that. There was an article, actually in USA Today, to kind of go from two extremes, from the Daily Mail to USA Today. It was about, the silent treatment and the psychological damage and the damage into the relationships of the silent treatment.
This was another good article. What I got from it is why the person does it, the person who is the silent one, is because they feel they have completely lost power. That's the only power they have left.
Well, that is one thing, one part. The other part is controlling. And there's the two sides of that coin. There's the one side they have no power, and the other side is that's what they use as their power, because it hurts. They're deliberately using it because it hurts, and that's their way of control. So it's just an exercise of control. So there are two sides to that. You do it, and you don't have the skills to figure out a different way, and so that's what you do. It's your only tool you know how to use, so that's what you're going to use. If that's your most effective tool and it's the only tool you have, it's reasonable that's the tool you use. But at the same time, if you're using that tool, not because you don't have others, not because you're not competent in using others, but because it's, it hurts the other person, it's the most controlling thing you can do. It happens that way as well. And sometimes it morphs. It might start that way and end up the other way, right?
It's awful. I've suffered the silent treatment, and it's being abandoned.
Well, it feels like emotional abandonment. Even if it's not, even if it's a sense, it's, you don't know any better, right? Maybe that's how your family dealt with it. And that's all you know how to do. And so it's not even abandoned, but it feels like you've been abandoned. Even if you don't really intend to it, like it is, you're just dysfunctional. Maybe you're just dysfunctional. That's all you've seen in a relationship. So that's all you know. And so that's how your habit is. So you're not malice, it's just dysfunction. It's the same, So.
It made another point that these people don't know how to deal with their emotions. They don't know how to say in the middle of an argument, I'm sorry, this is too much for me right now. Can we take a step back and come back to this in a little bit?
Which is what we're good at.
We're really good at that.
and the second half of that, you have to come back.
You have to come back, yeah.
And if you have a habit of coming back, even if you need a few days before you come back, it's fine because they know you will. Sometimes it takes a couple days to wrap stuff around your head, or you've got a lot of other stuff going on and you just can't wrap your head around it yet, right? And so it takes a couple days, or even a few days. But because we know it will happen, it's okay. Yeah.
Well, we built up shorter durations than first.
Yeah. Well,
couple hours. We had to learn to trust each other on this one.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is we allowed ourselves the time to do that. We gave ourselves the kind of the freedom. It wasn't always pretty those first times we navigate these things, right?
We would get to the breaking point. It was not good.
It's not always pretty.
It was going to turn into yelling, and it's like, wait a minute, we need to stop.
But
we're not getting anywhere here.
But it's not pretty. That's kind of getting to the point where you can kind of do that almost instinctually. It's not easy. When you talk about work in a relationship, that's it. That's the work is catching yourself, especially in those early years, is setting the the standards and the precedents and the behaviors that you want to repeat. And when you notice patterns that you don't want to repeat, you're like, crap, we've got to figure out how to stop this. And, that's what you have to do. It's actually kind of active. It's continually inactive. And over time, it becomes, I don't want to say easier, you become better at it, is what happens. It's not easier, you just become better at it. And so it feels easier and appears easier when really you're just more skilled. And people say, oh, it's easier. No, it's not. You're just more skilled. That's all it is.
It still work.
Yeah, and it never ends. It's not like it literally never ends. A good marriage never ends. Now, you can have periods where you, I don't want to say take off, but you don't have to necessarily work as hard as others. It does happen.
Well, sometimes you have some down years. Yeah, a down year.
Well, that may be an up year. Years you don't have to work very hard are up years.
Oh, yeah.
The down years are the years where you have to work. Sometimes you have to grind through. Some years you have to grind through.
And it's a year. We've done a year, man, where we've had to grind through an issue.
Yeah, and it's just, and what it is you have to be okay with it.
I'm in for the long haul.
And here's one of the things that's interesting, and it's actually probably a philosophy that our initial topic people, we'll just leave it at that, should pay some attention to. So if you go to latenightLove.us, you can click on the YouTube link, the YouTube video. But it's be a loser if need be. It's the philosophy of Epictetus. Oh, God, I knew I was going to screw that one up. Why is it that I can say these things pre-show, but I can't say them during the show? You would think. I'm a professional over here. So, these damn ancient Greek words, man. But the philosophy of Epictetus, and I'm going to pronounce that wrong, but Epictetus is, it's essentially you have to be prepared to be considered a loser in order to be happy. You don't have to be a loser, but you have to be prepared for society, the world around you, to consider you a loser in order for you to be generally successful and generally happy and content in life. Because otherwise you're not being yourself. Otherwise you're changing yourself. You're conforming to what society wants you to be, and you can never be happy. Because you're never being you. You're being what you think other people want you to be. And that's a fickle beast. Societal norms change at the drop of a hat. And we've seen it here, right? One day you have a thought that's particularly mainstream. 2 years later, it's all of a sudden some extreme perspective. You're now all of a sudden outside of the social norms. You didn't change. The social norms did. And if you wait around a year and a half, they'll change back. It's like fashion. These things come and go. And if you're always chasing it, you never find it. And so you find happiness by not chasing it. By focusing inward, focusing on yourself, and letting society, pound sand. I was trying to find some pleasant way to say what I was thinking. But you tell society to pound sand, kick rocks, whatever you want to.
Take a flying leap?
Yeah, because what if you don't personally value what society currently values? What if society values stuff, money, and things, and you value relationships? And so, but maybe you have enough to live on, you've got enough, you're perfectly content with all the things you have, and you have lots of solid relationships. You're perfectly happy, but society looks at you as a loser because you don't have a big bank account, you don't have a title to your name. You're a perfectly successful supervisor on an assembly line. You have a nice little house. You maybe have a little retirement package, but you got a beat up old car because that's all you can afford. You know, you have to count pennies at the end of the month like most people do. You know, society might view you as a loser. But yet, if you're happy, if you're surrounded by everything you want, if you are on the path to become the human being you want to be, society can pound sand. Right? Why would you, have you seen society? Why are you going to let those people judge you? That place is a mess. Why are you going to let that be your judgment? Define yourself. Be prepared for society. So it's not to be a loser, it's be prepared for society to view you as a loser. And,
some people always will.
yeah. And your job is to do your thing and surrender the results. Because that's how you be. That's how you're happy. That's how you make these adjustments and through life. All right.
I found this last article.
Yeah.
What to say. It's a 6-word phrase. Next time your kid say, I can't do it. Instead of saying, that's fine, I'll do it for you, or give me the scissors, watch mama, you tell them, and I love this, so empowering, try again when you feel ready. Because it puts it back on them and acknowledges their feelings. And it lets them know you have confidence in them.
I actually think it's one of those things you should actually tell yourself as well. When you're feeling frustrated trying to learn something or try to do something new, it's, come back later. When you start to get frustrated, you're not going to accomplish it, right? So take a break, take a walk, whatever it is. Do something else for a few minutes and come back when you have a fresh perspective. It's not just good for your children. I mean, it's good for your children, don't get me wrong. It's a good thing to do because childhood is for practice. They have to learn not just the skill of how to use scissors, but they have to learn the skill of how to manage their emotions. We were talking about managing emotions earlier, right? And they have to learn those skills, and they can't learn those skills if they don't practice. And they can't practice unless they get emotionally upset every now and again. I mean, you watch toddlers run around, they're little emotional creatures, right? There are emotions everywhere. But as emotional as teenagers are, they're actually less emotional than a toddler. They are. Not because they're less emotional, but because they've learned to deal with it. Well, if you're a proper parent and have taught them, or necessarily allowed them to learn, because you don't necessarily teach them that. You allow them to learn it. That's a skill you can't really teach, is it? You can help, but you can't really teach because they learn it so young, it's hard to teach. They can just have to figure it out for themselves. You have to give them the conditions where they can figure it out. But that also applies to yourself as an adult. You have the power to put yourself in those positions to adapt and learn on your own. It's not just for kids. Being kind to yourself and learning about yourself and how to interact with yourself in the world is not just for kids, it's for everybody. So it's actually a good thing. And while the Lubby steps out for her break for a minute, we're going to talk about where we're going here in the future. This is episode 97. And so in episode 100, we are going to change the format a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to switch to 3 half-hour shows a week. I think Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday is what we've currently settled on. We're having one show of questions, one show of kind of topics, philosophy, whatever. And then the third show we'll figure out either questions, topics, interviews, depending upon what we have scheduled for that week. It's just, as we have progressed, we have to come to the realization that this hour-long format, for our current audience anyway, doesn't work. And so it's, we figure, at least doesn't work in promotions on social media. You need more content. You need content more often in order for you, the modern algorithms and whatever to help promote the channel or promote the page, the channel, the website, all that various stuff. And so in order to do that, we have to evolve. And also, I think it will help the shows be a little tighter, not so rambly, and that should help our listeners better understand, keep you more connected. I'll just tell them how that on show 100, we're switching formats.
Yes.
A little bit.
I'm very excited.
We're, cutting the show down into essentially, I won't say quite thirds. It's a little bigger than thirds. We're kind of probably adding 20 minutes, 30 minutes even, overall content, but we're doing it in shorter, tighter bits. 3 30-minute shows rather than 1 hour show. So Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays is the current plan. These things may evolve. We don't know, because we have to deal with our audience, what they want, what they're after. We have to deal with how the social media algorithms, promote these things, and we just have to adapt. We can't, just because we would like to sit here and do a 2-hour, 3-hour show once a week, doesn't mean that's what the powers that be or the audience wants. And so, you have to. We must adapt, right? What is it? Improvise, adapt.
Improvise, adapt, overcome.
Yeah, Miss Lubby's boot camp over here. All right. What do we got?
That boot camp was a long time ago. I was 17. I had so much fun.
Fun in boot camp?
I did. I was a tomboy.
Fun. You must have been in some... Man, that tells you how small the town...
Weapons. I got to shoot stuff.
Tells you how small the town you grew up in. This boot camp was fun.
They have 3 traffic lights now. They had 2 when I was growing up.
2 traffic light town. And it's grown.
Yes, it's grown now.
All right. Hey, that's pretty good, because most small towns are shrinking. So the fact that they've grown, have a 3rd stoplight, that's pretty good. All right. So what's this first one?
My teenage son became legally emancipated by a judge without my permission. I am very angry at him. What should I do?
Doesn't seem to me like you got nothing to do.
I thought you couldn't become emancipated unless you were off on your own and you were supporting yourself and...
Yeah, judges don't give those things for no reason. Judges don't do that for no reason. So what did you do to screw it up? You can be angry at them all you want, but if you want to be angry at somebody, look in the mirror. I mean, these kind of things don't happen for no reason. And so it's time for you to figure out what you did. Oddly enough, as a parent, it's not your son's job to make you happy. It's not his job. His job is to, become an adult. In a sense, your job is to make him happy. Or at least make him a responsible adult. And apparently you have made him a responsible adult before he should be. What did you do wrong? I mean, that's my perspective on that. Not only did your son want to be emancipated and go through the process of doing it, which means proving to a judge that he's able to deal with himself as an adult. This is on you, not him. This is about you. Just spend some time in the mirror. Because, oddly enough, you may have done the right thing in a completely ass wrong way, though. Because he's an adult before he's an adult. A judge's got a piece of paper from a judge that says so. So, you can pat yourself on the back, I suppose, for raising an adult already. But I'd look in the mirror and see what the hell you did wrong, that your son wanted the hell to get away from you so fast. That's the thing to question. That's the real question. All right.
What was a choice you made that completely changed your life? Oh, God, I've had several. Having children.
Well, mine was actually the easiest one, was deciding to go to therapy.
Mine was quitting drinking.
So the decision to go to therapy and deal with what turned out to be anxiety disorder, it changed the whole trajectory of who I am and what I am and who I become. I'd be a completely different person without that. So that one's easy. And, quit drinking. That's, those are big ones. Completely change the trajectory of your life.
Completely changed my life.
Those are the things that completely change the trajectory of your life. And so,
They said don't give up till the miracle happens, and they were right.
So, there you go. Something fundamental. It's, a lot of people, children, marriage, it's something much more fundamental, much deeper. Learning to deal with yourself, in a responsible fashion, I suppose, was both of those. Whether it's quitting drinking or going to therapy to learn how to deal with your anxiety disorder. Those are the type of things that change your lives. Okay, what do we got?
Should I punish my teenage daughter for talking bad when I told her no to wearing thongs? Talking bad? What, a little back talk?
I'm assuming cussing and that kind of thing, because talking bad, you can't even say cursed. So, whether it's actually curse words or not, let her express herself and move on. Now, you might argue, why are you making a big deal over thongs? Now you've actually created a rebellion point. Now she's going to go wear thongs. Congratulations.
Yeah, she'll just sneak.
She'll just sneak it. Let that thing irritate your butt crack. That'll solve the thong thing. All on its own. Just let the fact that you have to go out and wear those damn things is enough to stop you from wearing them.
I hate those things.
Well, you know why they wear it.
They're so uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, so just let nature take its course. But they wear it because they don't want panty lines. And so that's why we wear the thong.
So just don't wear underwear.
Yeah, well, see, there's your choice. Do you want her to not wear underwear, or do you want her to wear a thong? At least she has something, right? So, I don't know. Should you punish her? I wouldn't. Even though I can understand if she crossed a line, maybe you should have to. There's lines you can cross. But as a rule of thumb, I allowed my children to express themselves when they were upset. And then if you feel the need, you go back and address it later when emotions are no longer there. Because trying to address it when emotions are high, you're just not going to solve anything. So at some point when you're sitting around eating popcorn and watching a movie, you say, I didn't really appreciate when you talk to me like that over the issues about your underwear. She says, I'm not going to punish you this time, but don't do it again. And that kind of thing depends upon the relationship, how many times she does this, blah, 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 right? There's no, there's so much we don't know about the relationship, so we can't really give specific advice. It's not possible. But for me, as a rule of thumb, is I allow them to express themselves, and then you deal with the issue of how they improperly express themselves later when the emotions are no longer existent. So, because that way they can actually process it. They're not feeling like their emotions are being attacked. Right? They're not feeling like they're not being heard. Like, I'm sitting here emoting to you and you're complaining about how I'm doing it. And that's when you're going to end up stuck on that rather than dealing with whatever it is you actually want to deal with. So, all right, next.
My 7-year-old son still gets carried up to bed by his older sister, 13. She likes to do it. Is that okay? How sweet is that? It's not gonna last, dude.
No, she's not going to be able to, she's physically not going to be able to carry him up much longer, so just let it be. As long as they're both happy, what do you care? They have a kind, caring relationship together.
It's sweet.
Yeah.
But enjoy it. It's not gonna last.
Nah, because she's not going to physically be able to carry him up there much longer. All right.
What's the hardest part about getting older that no one ever talks about at all? Well, I can tell you what's not talked about very much is you become invisible. People don't notice you. People don't pay attention to your opinions. You're too old.
Well, see, most of it is actually talked about now. So, I don't actually know what it is that's not talked about. Because we talk about the health, issues of getting older. It's well talked about. I mean, I suppose you could talk about the change in sexuality as people get older and that how that manifests itself or doesn't. I mean, you can point that out. But, I don't know. I can't actually think of anything these days. So much of this stuff is talked about that it's actually heartening. That all these issues that we deal with as we get older are now actually talked about.
We joke about some of them, incontinence.
Yeah, I mean, we joke about them, but joking is talking.
Yes.
Joking is talking. And so, yeah. No, I can't think of anything that isn't talked about. Give me 10 years and maybe I will. Okay, what do we got?
I kicked my daughter out the day she turned 18. She keeps calling me for money since she's unemployed, homeless, and her 12th grade classmates bully her for it. How do I tell her to figure it out for herself? What is the matter with you?
I mean, we had an 18-year-old stay with us for 6 months after high school because now whether she was kicked out of her house or whether she didn't want to live there anymore is an open question. I didn't actually, I didn't dive in too far. It wasn't my place. But at least they waited till after school was out. It was literally the day after school was out, but it was school was out. She's still in school. You have no business actually having an opinion. You heartless bastard. You're so selfish that you can't wait 4 months, 3 months, 4 months. Get her through school first. You actually want someone homeless and your solution is to figure it out. Not even out of high school yet, has no skills to actually live life yet because they haven't been taught because they're still in school, and you figure it out. Well, the note to anybody who's in that position, go to your school, tell them you're homeless, and ask them to connect you to homeless services, and they will do it. Any school in the country, they will find a way to do it.
They will find you someplace to stay.
Yeah.
Don't live in your car.
If you've got a car.
If you got a car.
Just, that it's better than the streets. It's not pleasant, but it's better than the streets. And quite frankly, you should be ashamed of yourself. The parent. That's not a parent. That's just a narcissist pretending to be a parent. Okay.
My husband quit his job because he felt harassed at work by a supervisor. Now he can't get hired because the same boss gives him bad reviews. Is there anything he can do?
Well, yes, you can actually sue his old boss.
You can.
Yeah, you're literally, legally, you really can't give anything other than, yes, they worked here during those time periods. That's like, because that's essentially slander. And so you can actually, but what you do is you don't use that as a reference. Why would you use that as a reference? Stop using it as a reference. And if they asked you to explain the gap, you say, no, I was working, but and you just explain what happened. To be honest, you don't want to ditch the old company. You just, rationally explain what's going on. And especially these days, people will understand. Still do it. Change your resume to a skills-based resume rather than a jobs-based resume. And don't use it as a reference. And then explain yourself in the interview. That's what you do. Just because you had a job doesn't mean you have to put it down. You get to control what you write down on your applications and your resume. Excluding a crappy job is fine. It's not actually lying. Putting a job that you didn't work out is lying, but omitting a job that you didn't. You only have so many things to, and legally all they're supposed to do is say whether you work there or not. Now but for the love of God, don't use them as a reference. Use your father-in-law as a reference before you use that. All right, what do we got?
I got an invitation to a high school reunion where I was bullied. I am successful in my career. I want the satisfaction I'm doing better than my bullies, but I don't want to demean myself on that level. Should I go?
Do not go. Well, are there people there you may be interested in seeing? Right? Because we all have friends in high school that maybe you're interested in seeing. But you also know that going there just to show up your bullies demeans yourself. So if that's the reason you go, then don't go. But if you're going because you're genuinely interested and you want to, see some people you haven't seen in a long time, the friends you did have, then go. I didn't go to mine simply because I barely went to school. It wasn't really appropriate to go to.
Mine is back east.
It's not really appropriate to go to a reunion when you only went to school 48% of the classes. It's like, I don't know. I somehow graduated school with a 48% attendance rate. Yeah, you can't do that these days. But I wasn't in school enough to care about those kind of things, so I didn't go. I don't go to mine. But if you've got some other reason to go, then go. But if you're only going to go to show your bullies, that's demeaning to yourself. That's being a petty person that you don't want to be. Otherwise, you wouldn't have asked the question. So you know the answer.
What should I do? My girlfriend told me she doesn't want my 10-year-old daughter with me during our engagement party. She said she doesn't want my daughter present during our wedding.
Well, it seems to me that you have a choice. You have to choose your new spouse or your daughter, because this is not going to change.
That's not a choice.
Yeah.
And shame on her for putting you in that position.
No, don't be afraid of being alone. Being alone is better than being in a toxic relationship. And you're not alone. You have a 10-year-old daughter to raise. At this stage, I would strongly reconsider the relationship. You have a daughter to raise, and if she doesn't want children to raise, or can't raise, or can't be part of somebody else's, then, she doesn't fit into your family. It's not the whole package.
That's a good way of putting it. She doesn't fit. It's not the whole package.
It's not the complete package. It's, something's going to break at some point. Whether it's your marriage or the relationship with your child, something will break. And, it's up to you to be preventative and to make the difficult, rational choices early. Or go to a counselor and figure out what's going on. Maybe she's got some trauma she has to work through, right? Maybe she was a stepchild and was treated badly by her step-parent, and she doesn't want to do that. So she's actually worried about herself, and it's coming out weird, benefits of the doubt. And, you can help her through it by going to counseling and working through it. It's possible. But you're going to have to figure that out before you go any farther. Stuff gets on hold until you deal with this. Okay.
My mom is 50 years old. She's always wearing bikinis, G-string type, to the pools and beach. There are so many men watching her and also boys. It makes me awkward. What should I do? I'm sorry.
What did you skip to?
I'm sorry.
Oh, you skipped that when you went back. Okay. No, I lost it. Okay. Nothing.
If she wants to wear a G-string bikini, then let her.
There's not a damn thing you can do about it anyways. Because your mother's just going to tell you to pan sand if you try to tell her anything, so you might as well just either accept it or stop hanging out around her when she's going to the beach. It's your only kind of choice.
Personally, I don't understand it. I switched to a one-piece at 40.
Hey, if she's comfortable, knock yourselves out. But clearly, there's nothing you can do.
Maybe she's a bodybuilder.
Yeah, no, there's nothing you can do. You can either go to the beach or the pools and stuff with her, or not. That's kind of what you can do at this stage. That's it. Because, if she's rocking her bikini, she's going to rock her bikini. Okay, what do you got?
Should I be worried that my 10-year-old insists on wearing shorts under her school skirt and becomes distressed for any reason she can't? She's a tomboy and won't wear skirts usually, but has to for school, and the shorts aren't even visible. I did this. I did the same thing. I was mortified that someone would see my underwear. It doesn't make sense that you would be so fixated on this. It could be at school, the boys are lifting up the skirts too.
No, she's just more comfortable with the shorts on. She's more comfortable being covered than not. She feels exposed. You just explained it. She feels exposed, and so she's more comfortable with shorts on. So what? Let her be.
She's 10.
Let her be. It's not like it hurts her, so let her be. Okay, that's my thing. Just let her be.
This next one makes me angry.
Mm-hmm.
How should I tell my 13-year-old that her dad and I have been offered a long-term business, hence we are leaving her behind in Canada to work in LA, California for the next 6 years? My parents can take care of her.
So my parents will take care of her. Well, before you get angry, remember, this is LA schools versus Canadian schools. That may very well be the choice. It may not be as crass as we think it is. She may be in a good school and they don't want to take her out. And yet this is a business opportunity that they can't pass up. Not just for their future, but for her long-term future. And so there is a potential there, where the choice is to, do you bring her to the crappy California schools, or do you leave her in a good school up in Canada? We live in California, LA. The place is a hellhole. I wouldn't bring my children here. But if you've got a once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity, I can actually see it. But what you can do is, at 13, she's old enough where she has to be involved in this decision. You can't just impose it on her. She's 13. She'll probably want to stay with her friends if you give her the choice. She won't feel abandoned that way. If you just dump her off at grandma's and go down for business, she's going to feel that the business is more important than her. If you sit down and discuss with her, here's what's going on, here's what we think is best, what do you think? And let her work through it. At 13, kids will want to stay with their friends. most often. You just will. And you have to be prepared that in a year or two, she's going to want to come back down and live with you. Just, just make sure whatever the decision is, it has to be a complete family decision. If she's not bought in, then you're going to create damage. I mean, I could see it. I wouldn't want to bring my child here. A 13-year-old child from Canada coming into California school. I wouldn't want to do it. I probably wouldn't take the business opportunity, but I can understand. If it's an opportunity to change the trajectory of your family's life, down the future, I could see it. Anyway, just make sure you include, she's old enough to be included in that decision. That's all I have to say. Okay.
What can I do? My 25-year-old daughter told me on her own that she won't get married, and if she does, she might not have kids. How do I tell her I want grandkids? I want to see my grandchild. Is there any chance I can see my grandchild?
Well, there's nothing you can do. She's 25. If she doesn't want to have kids, she doesn't feel she's going to be a good parent, there's literally not a dang thing you can do. But she's also only 25. You've got 15 years before, the clock stops ticking, so to speak. So you're just going to have to be patient. At this stage, it's not about you. You're going to have to accept that. It's about her. Yeah? Anything wrong on that?
No, it's her decision.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a very hard thing, I imagine. I don't know. But I wanted grandchildren for 30 years, so I understand the yearning.
Yeah, it's just it's not your place. Okay, what do you got?
How can I stop my husband from playing playing games with our 8-year-old son? Good luck.
Yeah, well, why would you want to? They're building a relationship, and these kind of foundations, they last. You playing games with your father at 8, you can be playing the games with your father at 18. And that's something beautiful. Don't ruin it. Now, if they're obsessing over it, or, if he's, not cleaning up after himself or that kind of thing, that's a different issue. But the playing games with your son, if he was playing Monopoly, would you complain? Or Yahtzee, or pick a game, board game?
Chess.
Yeah, whatever, checkers. It doesn't matter. Would you complain? If he was reading a book to him, would you complain? They're interacting. They're learning. Role-playing games, you can learn a lot through those things, right? There's a lot of life lessons in those kind of things. I don't think we understand that enough. Okay. Maybe what? We got 3 more. Okay, we're going to run a little long, but we'll finish these 3. Okay, let's go.
I have been actively avoiding going to family gatherings because a bully is there and will humiliate me in public. But other family members think I'm rude or shy for not showing up. What do I do? Say something.
Yeah, tell those family members you think you're rude or shy. I says, I'm not going as long as you all put up with that behavior. That's actually quite simple.
Yes.
I got better things to do with my time. And I'm, so that's all I would do. All right, what's next?
I'm 16 soon. Everyone in my household has their own chores, and my mom does the laundry and cooking. Or that's what I thought. She starts thinking that we are forcing her to cook. What are your opinions?
Well, she's burnt out. Laundry and cooking is a burnt-out thing. But I also like to point out that, to parents, kids can get burnt out on chores just like you. So sometimes you want to mix up your chores,
How about taking turns cooking?
Yeah, it's time to mix up the chores is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's time to mix up the chores because she's burnt out. And my guess is if you take up your own laundry, the cooking won't bother her so much.
Offer to make dinner one night a week. Have her teach you cooking.
Well,
It's a life skill.
yes, this is true. But my thing is the straw that breaks the camel's back is rarely the straw that's the problem.
Well, yeah.
So if she's doing laundry for a household, that's a daily grind. And after you're done doing laundry, the last thing you want to do is go fucking cook. It's a grind. So if those who are old enough start doing their own laundry, she will feel less worked.
Yes.
And then the cooking won't feel such a big deal. And make sure you help her clean up. But start to change your chore schedule. That's my suggestion. Okay.
My daughter, 13, spends up to 2 hours in the shower and runs up at water bill. She ignores me when I tell her to stop. What should I do?
Well, now see,
2 hours.
if a boy's in the shower for a long time, we all kind of know what's happening, and you pound on the door and you tell them to take care of that in your room. I don't know about a girl, what the hell a girl can be doing in 2 hours in the shower. And so...
The same thing.
And 13's too young to say buy her a vibrator, so I'm not entirely sure what to do here. I'm at a loss. I mean, my daughter took long showers, but she didn't take that long. But my house, we had one shower, small house, lots of kids needing some alone time. Just to kind of stand under the shower and be alone I can get it. But 2 hours, what the hell are you doing in there for 2 hours? You come out like a shrivel.
Now, this kind of rings a bell. I knew a girl who took very long showers, and she had trauma in her life. She had been molested, and she was trying to get clean. So why is this girl taking 2-hour showers?
Yeah. So maybe it's a sign of something deeper, and it's something you have to sadly look into. Because 2 hours isn't excessively long time. It doesn't take 2 hours to pleasure yourself, even as a teenager. So there's something else going on.
Yeah.
And you may need to take her to a therapist to find out. And steel yourself. Just
Be ready to support her.
be prepared for something you don't want. And be prepared to respond properly. Because ultimately, in all relationships, whether it's relationships with your child, relationships with your spouse, your work relationships, your friends, colleagues, responding properly to problems. It's difficult, but it's also important. That sets the stage for how we get through these difficult times. Whether it's a difficult time in a relationship, getting through some trauma, dealing with the loss of a job. We've covered a lot there tonight, and it all comes down to, a lot of it actually comes down to improper communication. And then making sure that we are mindful in how we respond to difficult situations. It's how we, make sure we don't just think of ourselves, and we think of those we care about. Because there's a funny thing. If we all put those we care about ahead of ourselves, everybody's ahead. Even you. Because those people you care about will put you ahead of them. Everybody's ahead. It's kind of it's a lesson that I fundamentally started learning working on an assembly line. And we had to say, do one thing to make the next guy's job easier. And next thing you know, everybody's job is easier, including yours. And that's the lesson we want to learn tonight, is to take the time to respond properly, make the next person's job, spread the love, and the love will come back to you. From me and Lubby, I want to thank you for joining with us. You can contact Lubby at love@latenightLove.us. You can find me at JazzRock on Twitter, and you can always find us at latenightLove.us. Good night, and please remember to love everybody.
Good night.